I'm very pleased, Laskin-Keola, that I've had the opportunity to speak on this issue, as it's one that affects thousands of people around the country, not least in my home constituency of County Wicklow, and one that was recently highlighted in the media. These past few years have been very difficult ones for many homeowners who are struggling to keep their heads above water. I've been contacted repeatedly by my constituents from Bray to Greystones, from Arklow to Baltinglass, who are worried about how to cope with mortgage payments they cannot sustain. There are too many in negative equity, too many who bought at the height of a market for fear of being left behind by a market that eventually had a very hard landing. This government, I know, is doing what it can to help people caught in these untenable situations. I have in past times welcomed such initiatives as were contained in the Keane report, and I look forward very much to seeing the Personal Insolvency Bill passed as soon as possible. Indeed, Cathaoirleach, as Vice Chair of the Justice, Defence and Equality Committee, I very much look forward to hearing from interested parties in regard to the heads of bill that will come before the committee soon. So while I welcome the actions that are being taken by the government on these important issues, I cannot understand why on earth the recent budgetary measures on mortgage interest relief.
Give the Speaker the floor. Sorry,
Thank you, have not been, I cannot understand why the recent budgetary measures on mortgage interest relief have not been passed on. Only last week I heard from a young couple in Blessington who were in severe financial difficulty. He was employed in the construction industry, earning great money during the boom. Now years passed. She is a homemaker who looked after their 3 children. They bought a very comfortable home a few years ago to provide for their growing family when they could afford to pay for it. They paid over $500,000 for this house, but on today's market it's not even worth half that. And he has lost his job. They're struggling to keep up with mortgage repayments. They worry for their own future and for the future of their children. And they told me that anything that could make their lives easier was very welcome, and this included the mortgage interest relief. So I suppose, Minister, I have a number of questions that need answering. Why has the situation arisen where the computer systems of the Revenue Commissioners are not in coordination with the banks? How is it that a situation where over 270,000 people who are eligible for this relief are being forced to wait? People are trying to balance their personal budgets on a daily, weekly and monthly basis, and they need to be able to have more certainty in regards to issues like this. Can the Minister confirm for certain when this problem will be resolved? I understand from reading in the local media that the necessary alterations may not happen until May, or till April rather. Why would there be such an extensive delay? How much will it cost the state to bring the computer systems into line with one another? And are there any other payments affected by this lack of communication? Can the Minister confirm which financial institutions have passed on the interim rate of 25%? And finally, can the Minister confirm, can he answer why most customers who have been switched to the interim rate have not been informed by the change by the respective banks? Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Your mortgage interest relief is available in respect of qualifying interest on a qualifying loan in respect of qualifying residence. Qualifying loan is a loan used for the purchase, repair, development or improvement of an individual's principal private residence. The relief is provided at source through financial institutions. This means that the mortgage holders get the benefit of the relief directly from their mortgage providers in the form of reduced monthly repayments, which take account of the tax relief. The cost of mortgage interest relief is a significant burden on the Exchequer. At its peak in 2008, mortgage interest relief cost the Exchequer $705 million. It is estimated that the cost of mortgage interest relief was $457 million in 2011. It is acknowledged that the early years of mortgage are the most difficult for mortgage holders. Therefore, since 1993, mortgage interest relief has been focused towards first-time buyers, granting this cohort a higher rate of relief, as it was considered that these mortgage holders were in most need of assistance. In Supplementary Budget 2009, mortgage interest relief was entirely focused on mortgage holders who were in the early years of their mortgage. Mortgage interest relief was seized from mortgage holders who had already received mortgage interest relief for 7 years or more. In line with the commitment in the programme for government, mortgage interest relief was increased to 30% for first-time buyers who purchased their first homes between 2004 and 2008 in Budget 2012. This measure was intended to help mortgage holders who purchased at the peak of the housing market. The Government also reversed the previous Government's decision to reduce the rates and ceilings of mortgage interest relief for those purchasing in 2012. The previous rates are maintained at 25% for first-time buyers, reducing to 20% on a sliding scale, and 15% for non-first-time buyers. Anyone currently qualifying for mortgage interest relief or who purchases in 2012 will receive the relief up to the end of 2017. These measures will cost in the region of €55 million per annum. Mortgage interest relief will not be available for new loans from 2013 and is set to be abolished altogether from 2018. Further technical details will be set out in the Finance Bill to be published later this week. When any first-time limited measure is introduced, there is always pressure for individuals falling outside the scope of the measure for it to be extended to them. For example, individuals who purchased in 2003. However, it is necessary to choose a cut-off point, otherwise the measure will become untargeted and very costly. It is evident that house prices increased significantly during the period 2004 to 2008. As the Deputy will appreciate, mortgage interest relief is most valuable to mortgage holders in the early years of a mortgage, where the interest makes up most of the payment. I am aware that some mortgage holders have pointed out that they are not eligible to benefit from the new measure, despite having purchased in the period, because they have rented out their home. I should point out that while these individuals are not eligible for mortgage interest relief because it is not now their principal private residence, they would be entitled to a 75% mortgage interest relief against the rental income from their property. Mortgage holders who find themselves in difficulty may qualify for mortgage interest supplement. Mortgage interest supplement is a means-tested payment by the Department of Social Protection to provide short-term support to help pay mortgage holders interest repayments. Finally, it should be noted that the Central Bank's Code of Conduct on mortgage arrears governs the relationship between lenders and borrowers who are in arrears and contains a number of important protections for borrowers. It has established a mortgage arrears resolution process for handling cases in arrears and dedicated arrears support units and appeals processes. The Code of Conduct also provides that a lender must not apply to the courts to commence legal action for the repossession of a borrower's private residence, and every reasonable effort has been made to agree an alternative arrangement with the borrower. Mortgage interest relief is only available in cases where mortgage interest is being paid. Therefore, I appreciate that the current relief is not going to help those in arrears. As I have mentioned, other solutions are available for this category of mortgage holder.
Thanks, Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, Carlock. Minister, thank you for your reply, first of all. But with all due respect, I don't think you answered any of the questions I asked. I was referring to the recent media reports in relation to why people who were due the extra percentage to get their mortgage interest supplement up to 30% weren't getting it. Why it's been highlighted that the computer systems between the revenue commissioners and the various banks are not talking to each other. We've had other problems like that in the past and they have been resolved. These people, as I've outlined to you already, cannot afford to wait month by month, and we're being told now by the banks that it could take, and by the revenue commissioners, that it could take up to the next 2 or 3 months for it to be sorted out. These people around the country who are struggling for any little bit of help that we can give them. And I do appreciate, Minister, that you have done an awful lot to help, and this government indeed, to help people who are struggling to pay their mortgages. But what I'm concerned about is why the delay when you announced this in the budget. Why? And we're, in the beginning of February, and we've been told that these people will have to wait till April. So it's really why the breakdown in communication between revenue commissioners and the banks. And also the other question I'd asked was, what is the cost to the state to get the two systems working together? But really, I want to know why the banks are not taking on board. I mean, we're all sick and tired of hearing, and I think people's opinion about the banks is at a very low ebb and has been for quite some time. But why haven't the banks implemented this, the mortgage interest relief? Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, I can, Carla. The topical issues debate notified to the Department of Finance was to raise the issue of mortgage holders unable to avail of mortgage interest relief. Quotation marks on that. So I replied to that. But then you've asked questions about matters that we didn't anticipate. So I'll get you a full reply on the questions you've raised today.
I appreciate
because
that,
obviously there was a mismatch between what the department thought your intentions were and what you actually asked in the question. So we'll get you a full reply.
I appreciate that, Minister. Thank you for your
Thanks, Minister.